I think most of you adults have that horrible feeling in the pit of your stomach, right before you head out to work at the beginning of each week. Why does our weekend have to be so short? Or, I wish I could wake up and it was still Saturday. Nobody ever seems to complain. Oh man, I wish the work week was longer. In fact, Mondays are usually associated with a certain amount of muttering and foul language that may not be appropriate to repeat in a speech. Seeing that Mondays do mark the end of your 2-day weekend and the beginning of 8-hour workdays for 5 days a week. However, with the 4-day work week, there's a guaranteed improvement in the morale of the working population, as well as an increase in the quality of workmanship. Now, before you all force me to sit down because you think I'm absolutely crazy, hear me out. And at the end of my speech, you can make a decision on what makes more sense, having a 4-day work week or a 5-day one. First, let's take a look at some of the history behind a 4-day work week. Then we can examine some success stories and finally decide on how best to implement a solution. We've been using a 5-day work week since 1938 in the time of Franklin Roosevelt. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that I have to be the one to break this to you, but this conspiracy theory that we're actually living in 2014 and 1938 passed a long time ago is true. But during those times, it was very difficult to make money, and many people had to work 7 days a week just to make ends meet. It was even discussed to try and make an 8th day within the week just for holidays. Except that idea was proved completely idiotic and impossible, and most people were ashamed that they could even thought it could happen. Anyway, life has changed drastically since then. Companies that are closed just an extra day each week would save dramatically on security costs, janitorial costs, and increasing energy costs. Also in the time of Franklin Roosevelt, there was no such thing as an illegitimate disability claim. These days, many false claims are made by people who simply want to get money for doing nothing. These claims not only hurt the company, but they take away attention from real claims of people who are actually suffering. Well, I say no more. With a 4-day work week, I can guarantee less of these claims will be made. And with less of these claims, companies can save money, bad publicity, and the United States no longer has to be known as the land of the free and the home of the people who love to sue everyone else. And as Jay-Z would say, a company could have 99 problems, but a lawsuit ain't one. The great state of Utah has actually attempted a 4-day work week. 70% of state workers state that they now prefer this new 4-day work week to the old 5-day one. 70%. Salaries were not cut, and work was actually completed before scheduled time. And according to Mike Hansen, the strategic planning manager in the Utah governor's office, there's been a large drop in the amount of days employees are taking leave. This means that the amount of paid overtime has also been cut. Employees are actually happy with these new conditions. Utah has also managed to cut their energy use by 13%, and lack of Friday commuters has eliminated the amount of carbon dioxide pumped into local air. Lack of Friday commuters also eliminates another huge problem for most of you drivers: traffic. Throughout this speech, I referenced something called the productivity rate. How the productivity rate increases, it brings more profit to the company. Productivity this, productivity that, blah, 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 blah. But how does one actually measure the productivity rate? Well, I have absolutely no idea. Cut me some slack. I'm a 14-year-old kid whose idea of running a business is opening a lemonade stand. And the meager amounts of money I do get, I usually blow away on extremely overpriced 5 gum or video games. But you can take this from Gina, who's a single business owner of a very busy graphic design firm. She started a 4-day work week simply because she felt bad that she had knee surgery and got to stay home while everyone else showed up to work. Well, that decision, though maybe by accident, actually ended up being the best for her company. According to her, from Monday to Thursday, workers got in early just to get their work done, and employees seemed genuinely excited to be there. Just like in Utah, salaries were not cut, and work was once again completed before the scheduled time. Even the office chit-chat seemed more efficient, because employees knew they could do whatever they wanted in their new 3-day weekend. Still not convinced? Okay, tough crowd. But I'm not finished yet. Now, a reason that employees and employers alike are so apprehensive to have a 4-day work week is because they think with companies open less days, employees have to rush to get all their work done. That's understandable. But look at it this way. According to the New York Times, an average worker is more likely to miss work on a Friday than any other day of the week. And a study conducted by Forbes magazine on a group of 4,000 white-collar workers shows that 52% of them are likely to leave work early so they can go buy flowers or chocolates or gifts. 42% leave so they can buy a dentist or doctor's appointment. And the worst part about all of this is that there's been a 38% increase in running errands since 2011. Companies have tried everything to get workers to show up on a Friday with little to no success. In almost 26 states, offices have reduced hours to half days. And I'm sure you've all heard of casual Fridays as well. So at this point, an 8-hour workday has been reduced to a 4-hour day in a polo and jeans. And even then, CNN reports there's been no increase in the productivity rate. At least not like the increase seen in Utah or in Gina's company. Another reason people constantly dismiss suggestions to have a 4-day work week is because they think with companies open less days, they're going to hire less. And if they hire less, the unemployment rate goes up. And if the unemployment rate goes up, everyone in the United States has a huge frown on their face. Well, look at it my way. The only thing changing about a company is the amount of days it's open. Because the workload of the company remains the same, chances are the company might actually have to hire more employees just to complete their work orders. And if they're hiring more, the unemployment rate's going to go down. And if the unemployment rate's going to go down, then everyone in the U.S. is happy. And they're all smiling. So far, a 4-day work week keeps morale up, it improves workmanship, and it increases the productivity rate. And with the higher productivity rate, companies can expand, and if companies can expand, they're hiring even more. Think about all the success that can happen with a 4-day work week. Now think about how in the beginning of my speech, some of you thought the idea was so silly and stupid. All around the world, companies are trying this new 4-day work week. In Europe, many countries are already in talks to nationalize a 4-day work week, completely skipping the experimental process. That's how much confidence they have in this new idea. All I ask of you is maybe you want to bring this idea up with your boss. I understand at first, change always seems scary. But in a few months, when your employer realizes how great of an idea this was, and they give you that nice new promotion with a corner view office, you can call me and tell me what a genius I am. And maybe give me $1 million out of your salary. I don't ask for much. You know what? On top of a 4-day work week, I just thought of a greater, better idea. This is the best idea ever, and you know why? This idea is a 4-day school week. But I'll save you that speech for another time. Thank you.
Okay, that was, what's your name?
Sairam.